Japan has announced plans to increase its spending on childcare. The government aims to reach levels comparable to countries like Sweden to combat the country's declining births. Toward that end, it will double its current childcare spending by the early 2030s. The move is outlined in a draft plan for comprehensive child-rearing support. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida expressed his commitment to strengthening child-rearing support during a June 13 government panel meeting. In it, he stated that Japan's efforts would be on par with Sweden, which leads among OECD members in terms of family benefits expenditure per child. He also emphasized the significance of this step, calling it epoch-making. In 2019, Sweden's public spending on family benefits accounted for approximately 3.4% of its GDP. Meanwhile, Japan's equivalent ratio stood at 1.7%. However, it should be noted that Sweden and other European nations typically have higher tax rates and social security contributions than Japan. I interviewed 4 fathers living in Japan. Among the respondents, all 4 expressed a preference for investing in government funds in education. Specifically, they focused on preschool education. Mr. Haleko, 45, is the father of a 3-year-old son. He appreciates the financial support and acknowledges its practicality. He explained his perspective.
I think just throwing money at the situation is not gonna... It'll be a bit of a plus alpha, but I think more issues that we have or had after Tom was born or after my son was born and things like that is that trying to get into a decent preschool nearby is actually more of an issue than money, because I think a lot of people with kids already, some people obviously do struggle with raising children and the price and everything like that, but more so than that, it's trying to find a good preschool is also a really big issue for a lot of parents. So sure, throwing money at parents is great. I'll take it. Buy some clothes, go on a trip, use it for groceries. But that alone it's not an end-all and be-all of fixing the problem for sure.
According to Dr. Tatetsu, who is a 40-year-old father of a 2-year-old son, a significant factor contributing to the declining births is inadequate compensation in the childhood education industry. The lack of workers in the industry leaves families with no choice but to prioritize work above other options. He says,
So the salary for the, hoiken sensei, it's too low. Too low. Even now, even for teachers, normal teachers too. I think that's a maybe basic point. That's the point where we should be, it should be what should be improved.
He highlighted that not only nursery teachers, but also administrators receive low salaries. Their average annual income was 3.9 million yen in 2022. Per month, in some cases, individuals earn less than 200,000 yen. Mr. Hachiro, 43, is the father of a 2-year-old daughter. He echoed the sentiment of investing in preschool and education. Meanwhile, he also emphasized the importance of supporting the workforce and industry with nationally allocated funds.
Yeah, and people realize, raising kids is hard. It's a lot of work. I think it's certainly fair that we should have better childcare. Childcare workers should get paid a lot more, if anything. As much as paying the parents, I think it's more about paying childcare people better so that there's more of them as well, and that would make parents' life easier more than anything, is that you have great childcare available.
Mr. Dart, 46, is the father of a 17-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son, and an 11-year-old daughter. He highlighted the challenges related to family income and tax brackets. Depending on a family's financial situation, he explained, career advancement becomes more difficult because it impacts eligibility for government benefits. That, he pointed out, adds strain to the overall dynamics.
When you're in there's a certain income bracket where if you are over a certain amount, you are seen as making too much to afford to have to get government subsidies. But in reality is that if you have more than 2 children, you don't have the money. If you have 3 kids or 4 kids, if you leave Tokyo, in other words, where you have far more families with more than 2 kids. Because that's where we started, and most of the people in the village we lived in had 3 kids. So you end up just being hurt. So it's actually like you don't want to go forward in your career because you know you're going to get too much money, then you're not going to have enough to do what you need to do.
Single-income families face heightened pressure and stress in sustaining themselves. Meanwhile, simultaneously they face the risk of being disqualified from financial benefits if their income exceeds certain thresholds. This dual challenge adds to the complexities and burdens faced by such families. Mr. Haleka recounts a recent situation.
I was just talking to a friend the other day who he wants to start a family with his wife, but they're worried about timing because maybe his job isn't so financially stable. So if there were options for that to have a stipend or an allowance, but it depends on the amount. You know, if the government's just going to give you an extra $100 a month, then thank you. I'll go buy groceries for the week. You know, because most families now you have to have a double income just to survive here in Japan as well, and that's not even just in Tokyo. So you have to have enough money coming in that one parent doesn't need to work for a couple of years, hopefully. So,
given the immense pressure of ensuring financial stability as a sole working parent, the focus shifts to determining society's priorities and also finding ways to promote and support such a lifestyle. Mr. Dart reflects on the challenges he faced as the primary income earner. He expressed hope for improved societal and workplace support for young families.
I really wish I could have had more time when the kids were smaller to just sit at their eyesight, to play with them and not feel pressured like I had to work, like I had to provide all the time. And that's a societal issue. It's something where you have to have people think differently, work differently. Companies have to change their policies. The expectations have to change.
Mr. Hachiro argues that addressing the decline in births requires considering a broader perspective. It should encompass factors such as parents' ability to return to work, the availability of quality nursery care for children, and the need to provide stronger incentives for the nursery school industry. By focusing on these interconnected aspects, he believes a more comprehensive solution can be achieved.
Giving people money won't help them go back to work. I think a lot of people do, especially women want to, go back to their careers, have careers. I think the way to do that would be to have better childcare, pay childcare people more so that they do a better job and that parents can feel better about leaving their kids there. That's who you should give the money to. You should give the money to childcare run by the government, socialized childcare.
Insights from the fathers living in Japan shed light on several key points regarding declining births and child-rearing support. They are a useful guide for how the government should consider utilizing the funds. Taking these perspectives into account can guide efforts to address declining births and promote a more supportive environment for families in Japan. Galileo Ferrari for Japan Forward.